You're probably wondering how you got here. It's the Woodworking Morning Show.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
It's Friday.
Oh my goodness.
It's the Woodworking Morning Show, and I'm Mark.
And I'm Nicole.
And it's a little bit different.
Yeah.
Like
you might go, wait, what?
We're doing.
How did I get here?
Doing the same show, but the curtains are a little different. Yeah. And yeah, we moved the show from the Offcuts channel to our regular Wood Whisperer channel. So those of you who are regulars, you might notice the difference. If you're new here, this is something we do every Friday. 9:30-ish.
Yeah.
We like to say ish because we have two kids.
Yeah.
And they're home all the time. So we do this show. It's just a little fun morning show. We drink some coffee. We clear our throats, right?
You clear your throat. I don't clear my throat.
We answer questions from the community. The interesting thing is we get some questions directly from Patreon. So we have patron supporters, and I'll tell you more about that in a minute. But we also get questions from the live chat room. So if you have a question, Nicole is monitoring the chat.
That's what I do.
Just go ahead and ask. She'll pull the question. And there's going to be a lot of people, so we don't always answer all the questions, but we do our very best. Now, speaking of Patreon, if you want to help us out, that supports the show. You get some things in return. It's patreon.com/woodwhisperer.
Patreon is having a little bit of a problem right now.
Yeah, I was getting a Cloudflare notification, so they're having some issues this morning. Yeah. Whatever. And I want to thank some people who helped us out in that way by going to Patreon. That's Tobin Yoakum, Mike Donaldson, Brian Pulse, Chris Drake, and Brian Burris.
I get to send Mike some cool stuff.
Oh yeah?
He wants
What, did he send you a lot of money?
He did. He did one of the higher ones, so you're gonna sign a book for him.
Oh sweet.
You're gonna get me a scrap piece. In fact, you probably give him the
messed up
one and sign that, and I'll send it to him.
Okay.
So there's some cool rewards. It's just a chance to,
Yeah, that sounds good to me. I'm super excited about this because not only are we moving the live show over to the main channel, we're sort of having a new initiative, right? This hit me the other night, and I'll tell you why. Because my kids, the whole kids say the darndest thing, and that whole thing, a lot of times kids hold up a mirror and show you what you're doing, maybe what you're doing wrong, Nicole.
Yeah.
We're in the car with our kids driving around, going to pick up some meats. We had to drive a half hour to pick up some sweet meats. By the way, follow me on Instagram on TWW Barbecue. BBQ, sorry.
All the meats.
All the meats, all the cooking. It's a whole thing now.
We probably shouldn't say we have the meats. That's like trademark.
Oh yeah, be careful with that.
The Arby's.
But I do like plural meats.
Yes.
So we're in the car, and Mateo is asking me questions. Now, he's like a YouTube connoisseur now. Like, he knows everything about YouTube because he follows gamers and crazy people who do stunts.
Yeah.
It's so annoying. But anyway, he's watching this stuff. And he says something to me that, kind of took me aback. And I actually have the clip here. I put it on Instagram as a story. So let's see Mateo's insights.
Yes, he's very...
You're losing subs because you're not posting any videos.
How dare you? So he said, because he actually asked me before this point, he says, Dad, how come you haven't posted a video in a while? And I was like, because it takes a long time to build projects, dude.
Building the desk or the chair or whatever you want to call it.
Right. More importantly, the two of you, like you and your sister, those are the two primary reasons why I'm not making more videos.
This is true.
And he goes, well, but you're losing subs because you're not posting videos. And I was like, listen, you little, I used the S word. I said, listen, I'm not losing subs, first of all. You little scamp. You little sweetheart. So here's the thing. We're not losing subs. We always have a slow growth pattern. That's what the Wood Whisperer has always been about.
We've taken the slow road.
The marathon and not the sprint, right? We like to stop and get coffee on the way to wherever we're going. But it did hit me that, you know what, I would like to produce more. And we do have a new employee starting at the end of this month. John is his name. He's coming in, and I can never have enough Johns and Matts in my life. It seems like every cool person I meet either has one of those names. Although we have a cool person named Todd.
That's true.
And we only know one Todd, right?
Yeah.
Maybe we should meet some more Todds. So anyway, it kind of hit me that maybe we will be able to up the pace a little bit on the free site content and just making more of the stuff you guys like to watch. Yeah, and committing is what it.
Yeah.
So by saying this publicly, you know, we could just say this internally, and then I could change my mind next week. But if I say it publicly, now I'm stuck.
Oh, and somebody's gonna clip this right here.
And they're gonna say, "Aha!"
You said every 2 weeks, Mark.
Yeah. So I am going to try to stick to an every 2 week schedule. And this means that, you know, I'm not going to change the furniture that I make. This means you might see incomplete videos or parts of series because I just can't build the things that I build in a timeline that fits on YouTube's schedule, right? So we'll see how it goes. I'm really excited about it, though. I do like making more stuff. People sometimes think that I'm so focused on the guild that I don't have time for anything else. It's not true. It's just furniture takes a long time to build. Some of those projects go to the guild, some go to the free site, and we are still very much committed to the free site.
Committed.
All right, let's get to some questions. I don't think I have anything else to cover.
Yeah, I mean.
Oh, I do have one thing I want to show you.
Working on that table.
Yeah, hey, so you guys know mistakes happen, right?
Mistakes
Sometimes
always happen.
things, you know, I make a mistake. Sometimes a manufacturer makes a mistake and a router bit breaks, right? Let me show you what happened yesterday. So I developed this little jig. So here's what I'm making. It's a drawer front for the desk that I'm working on. And you see these little parallelogram mortises. These are through mortises, so they have to be very accurate. Well, I had a little jig and I had a little bit. This is just a little flush trim bit so that you put this on the drawer front, flip it over, and now we could flush trim to at least get, you know, most of this covered. It's a 1/4 inch bit. It wouldn't be perfect, but then I could just chisel the corners. So everything was going fine for a little bit, and suddenly I just noticed I was taking off a little bit more material than I would have expected to. And by the way, this was my prized drawer front. I had made a backup just in case, but this is the one that I wanted in the project. And what happened? Well, the bearing fell off. So unfortunately,
Fate happened.
Fate intervened and said, "No, sir, you will not use that piece of curly white oak. You're going to have to use the plain white oak piece." So this particular router bit here, most bearing guided bits that I have, you probably can't see the details here, but usually there's a little screw and maybe a washer up at the top. This one just has a retainer clip, a retainer like ring that goes on there. And I guess with the vibration or maybe the diameter of the clip wasn't perfect because at a certain point, even without a lot of pressure, that clip fell off. And look what happens when that clip comes off. Bloop, there goes your bearings. So I wound up over routing the mortise. And you know, some things are worth fixing, some are not. This is not something on a show surface like this, as important as this was. There's no way I was going to try to fix that. So this will go toward making more delicious sweet meats, Nicole.
Oh, is that what you're going to? Or we could sign it for Mike.
Okay, I could sign it for someone who wants me to sign.
He specifically said I'd like to have
we'll
a
cut
piece
it right here
from the desk.
And I'll autograph it and say, "Here's my screw up, Mike. Enjoy." This is what it's supposed to look like when it's done, right? Obviously, this is not just routing. This is, you know, some chiseling and stuff like that. So, you know, things happen. You make mistakes, you recover, you move on. I have to admit, I probably should have brought the prop up here because it's sitting on the floor right now. I don't lose my temper that often.
No.
But holy crap, did I lose my temper.
Yeah, I'm glad I wasn't here.
I was really upset. And I actually, at first, I walked away. I thought I was okay.
You're like, trying to do the Zen thing.
Then it hit me that number one, I don't have another bit. Like all these things hit me all at once. And I just Hulk smash, pulled the headphones off, threw them on the ground, and now I'm buying a new set of 3M work tunes.
Brian said, "So you're saying you lost your bearings?"
Oh, I totally lost my bearings, my friend. It was a sight to behold. Let me tell you.
I'm just glad you just got mad in here. That's why I said, like when the kids get mad, just go to your room. You can be mad.
Be as mad as you want. Punch a pillow.
You can have those feelings. Just don't do it around me.
Don't hurt yourself. Don't break anything.
It's like,
but I broke something. So, you know, anger plus electronics plus woodworking, they don't mix.
Yeah.
Not a good combination.
Not a good combination.
Okay, so I've got some questions here pre-selected from Patreon.
So this is a Q&A show, if you're new.
Oh, by the way, this is a Q&A show. You know, we don't have, you know, with this format, it's very difficult to do like full-on demos.
Yeah.
So if you're expecting that, I apologize. That's not really what we do most of the time here. It's a lot of talking. It's a lot of question and answer, a lot of community.
Yeah.
It's our chance to talk to you guys.
Yes.
Alan Lilich wrote in. He says, I recently used, you okay there?
Yeah, I just
You sure you didn't just toot, Nicole?
Excuse me.
I think you may have tooted.
The people on the listening to the audio probably think I did.
Yes, they probably did. Yeah, we also do this as a podcast. So I take the audio from this show. Check any podcast player. Look for the Woodworking Morning Show. You should be able to find it if you want the audio. Okay, I recently used tried and true varnish oil for the first time. I was surprised at how thick it was, about like warm honey. Do you use it as is or thin it a little bit? And look, visual aids, Nicole.
Visual aids.
I happen to have a very large can of tried and true. I'm going to show it to you. Tried and true is a polymerized linseed oil. That means if you just take linseed oil and give it a heat treatment, you get a little bit of polymerization that happens, makes the finish a little more durable, helps it cure a little bit faster. And tried and true is one of my favorite brands. Funny thing is, if you answer a question and someone says, hey, what finish did you use? I say tried and true, and they're like, well, that's great that it's your go-to finish, but could you give me the name brand?
Is this the Danish one?
This is varnish oil, I think.
Oh, varnish oil. I got the Danish oil in the Amazon store.
Yeah, they're all kind of the same thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, look at that. It is like honey. You certainly can dilute it. For me personally, when I use this finish, what I'm looking for are the food safe traits that this has. It's like 100% food safe. You could use it on cutting boards, bowls, whatever. I'm looking for the all-natural aspects of this finish. So thinning it is just not in the cards for me. I don't want to add mineral spirits, naphtha, paint thinner, all the things you could thin this with. My recommendation is just heat. If you put this in a little double boiler situation, warm it up, you loosen it up, the viscosity becomes a lot more easy to spread around. You could rub it into the surface. Very light coats on something like this. You do not want to put, you don't want to flood the surface with this stuff. Light coats on, rub off the excess, and you're good. But heat is going to be your friend. If it's cold, it's going to be very hard, and it will be a huge pain in the butt to try to spread that stuff on the surface.
When it hardens, is it no longer good? Like, how hard can it? You said it hardens. Can it get really hard, or
it won't? It's not like wax.
Okay.
It's not going to solidify.
No, I've seen around the shop. There, it looked like a cookie. And it was
hard.
If
a lot of times I'll leave in the bottom of a can, that I'm working out of. I'll leave the stuff in there, and it starts to set up. This particular stuff will never get truly hard in a sense of like a little biscuit that you could throw around. It'll get wrinkly. It'll be kind of gooey to an extent, and it'll take a long time for it to fully dry.
Someone said your mic.
My mic's hot?
No, it's not hot.
What?
It just says that it sounds like you're on the laptop mic. David says your mic might have died and is using the laptop. So I just wanted you to double check.
That's not the case.
Okay, never mind. It is right into your shirt though.
Well, listen. I'm trying to do a live show here.
Hey, it's lowered. It says Mark's mic lowered volume.
Okay. I did lower it a little bit because I saw it was peaking, but I can put it back up. You guys are picky. You guys are picky, man. I'm doing this show live.
Gonna pop my peas.
I'm trying to pop my peas over here. Okay, you have a question from the live stuff that we can go to?
Who's Mike?
Yeah, who is Mike?
This is Mark.
Some people call me Matt. Some people call me David.
Yeah, some people call me Amy.
Yeah.
David wants to know, how do I finish cedar to retain its color?
Cedar?
Cedar. Doesn't it retain its color though?
Well, no, I think if you're using cedar for like an outdoor project, just by virtue of living in an outdoor space, it tends to gray over time. There's not a whole lot you could do about that. I mean, you can hit it with a UV inhibiting finish, right? And that certainly helps. What are you doing?
Is this you?
Don't touch.
They're saying you're hot.
See, well, this is the thing. Lowered it.
I'll ignore the chat.
Just ignore the chat. Let's just do a show.
Focus and do a show.
Oh my God. Hey. And look, someone goes, it's great now. I don't know if that's because of the thing I just did.
Yeah.
Or because I readjusted it. So
it's
stop
fine.
messing with me.
Fine. We'll just move along.
So yeah, an outdoor finish has UV inhibitors in it. And the UV inhibitors will sort of slow that process down. So if you put a piece of furniture outside, especially something like cedar, teak, these are things that naturally want to gray over time. You could fight it, and the fight is by continually reapplying a finish or refinishing it, once it starts to look a little bit bad. So it depends on how you want to commit to this piece of furniture. I've got plenty of pieces out there, some chairs. I've got Adirondack chairs. Those are made out of a couple different types of mahogany. those would also gray over time, but I'm like refinishing those every few years, or at least maintaining the finish in a way that allows the UV inhibitor to continue to protect the wood. So that's really it's just a maintenance thing and using a finish with a UV inhibitor, and preferably, keep it under some kind of cover, right? Or overhead cover if you can.
Oh, guess what? We have some super chats.
Adam says, just want to, make sure everyone knows you sound fine, and damn, you fine, he says. So
why is somebody at the front door?
I have no idea.
And I don't have my phone to check, so.
It's okay, we're good. It's nothing important.
Hopefully the kids don't answer it.
Hi, there's a fire in your front lawn.
I'll check.
I do have questions to keep me busy.
We'll do the super chats after I get
One
back.
thing you got to realize about this live show is that we have 2 kids in a house, and we're doing our show at our house, so sometimes things happen, but we persevere.
Things happen.
David Archibald wrote in. He says, Mark, I purchased a combination square and placed it up against a square set that I bought a while ago, and to me it seems that the combination square is out of square. Is there any way to fix this? Well, there could be. Could definitely be. Let me see.
I heard a truck run.
It's probably mail.
It was just package.
Yeah, package. So combination squares generally, kind of operate the same way. You've got a little pin in there that rides in this groove. You tighten that up and it holds it down to the body of the square. And it's the body of the square that's going to determine how this piece sits in that space, whether it sits crooked or if it's perfectly square. So first thing I want you to do, testing a square against a square is always a good idea if you're absolutely 100% sure that that other square is square. It might not be, right? So one good way to test it, if you're not 100% sure, just take a nice piece of material that has at least one jointed side, one side that you know to be straight. Take your square and a pencil, draw a line, right? Then flip your square over and then go up to that line, draw another line. So if what you end up with is a single line, then you know you're square. If it's kind of, off a little bit and you wind up with something that becomes kind of like a taper, then it's not square, and then you have something to fix, right? So assuming that's the case, assuming you do have something to fix, let me just show you what I would recommend. I really don't like taking sandpaper to tools most times, but if you absolutely must, you could take this guy out, and inside there, you guys aren't going to be able to see it with this shot, but there are there's like a little ridge, a little raised area there, and that spans from this side all the way to the other side. So if you change the shape of that, right? If you take a high spot down or something like that, you can actually change the way that this sits in there. And one viable option is to take sandpaper, fold it over, and you guys know I'm not going to do this on my Starrett gauge, right? Because it's fine, and I don't want to mess it up. But slide that bad boy in there, and actually you're going to probably have to take this pin out and just go back and forth and work it down. And you want to, obviously you want to work the side that's going to correct the out of squareness of this. If you have some kind of a file, that'd be better, I think, than sandpaper. You could have a little bit more control over what's going on here, but even sandpaper will work. If you don't have, let's say you have a really, really inexpensive square and this is aluminum, just be careful. Aluminum is very soft and it won't take much to start changing that shape. But it's going to be a real trial and error process. So whether this is worth it to you to do or not, totally up to you, but it can be done. People do it. I haven't done it. Thankfully, my squares are square, but that's it's a solution. Especially if you got like a box store, $8, $10 square. It's something that makes it a viable square to work with. You guys questions?
I always have questions.
Okay.
Bradley Lee says, do you need multiple types of planes to start woodworking, or will a combination plane and a number 5 plane work for starters?
Yeah, it really depends on your goals. If you are looking to go like all Neanderthal, completely hand tool, you need a range of planes, joinery planes, planes that allow you to go through the coarse, the medium, and the fine aspects of milling boards. But if you're just starting out, sometimes you don't have the budget for that, right? So a jack plane is a really good solution. So that's actually, as a hybrid woodworker, this is what I use the most. You got a sole on this thing that's long enough that you could do jointing and flattening operations, but you can also tune it so that you could do smoothing as well. You could do edge jointing. A jack plane is just that. It's a jack of all trades, sort of master of none, though when you get a really good jack plane, it kind of does smoothing as well as a smoother. It's just got, a longer surface here. So if there's little undulations in the surface, it might not be able to work with that as well as a smoother. Undulations?
Undulation.
Do you also like the word unctuous?
No, I like undulations.
I like unctuous.
I don't like
Okay. It's not unctuous, though. I can tell you that much. So, so I think that's a good place to start. You may later, if you go all Shannon Rogers on this thing, you may later decide that, this actually becomes your least used plane because now you have a smoother. You have a number 7 or a number 8 for jointing. You got a bunch of joinery planes and a block plane. This may not be something you use all the time, but if you want a small selection of planes, something like this would be a pretty good option.
Let's see, I got a super chat here from
Super chat.
David Hunter. Says, hi folks, with Patreon very likely going under for their antics. What's their antics? I don't know about this.
Maybe they're going under today.
Will you add subscriber stars or YouTube membership as an option to support you? Cheers.
That's a great question.
That's a great question. And the answer is yes.
Now that we've moved the show to the main channel, we are considering the membership option.
I'm having some professionally done emojis and badges because I'm not a graphics designer.
The people have been asking for it.
Nobody asked
We want
for it.
those custom emojis, baby. Let's get them.
So I'm just working it. It'll be very simplistic, though.
What's going on with Patreon?
I don't know.
I mean, I know there have been things. A lot of people don't like using Patreon for various reasons, censorship, things like that. But I didn't hear anything about them likely going under.
Yeah, I haven't.
Is that truth or is that speculation?
I think that might be speculation.
I haven't heard anything about
Yeah.
the likelihood
Because I just
of
got
going
an email about opening up other currencies.
under. Yeah.
So.
Did you hear the whole thing about TikTok?
Oh yeah.
TikTok.
I'm not on TikTok.
TikTok, you don't stop, ain't true anymore.
Yeah.
TikTok may be stopping.
Yeah.
What's up with that? Okay.
Fernando.
Oh, by the way, this is an apolitical show.
Yes.
We may talk about something like that, but we will not get into politics.
No. Fernando Riviera did a super chat and bought you a cup of coffee. So thank you, Fernando.
Thank you, Fernando.
I love saying your name.
Fernando. You have to roll the R.
No.
If you're going to do it, you got to do it right, Nicole. Fernando.
And then Robert Price did a super chat, but didn't ask a question. So Robert, I'll keep my eye out for you in the chat.
Okay, Ryan Murray wrote in. He said, I tuned up a bandsaw according to the Snodgrass method in your video. My blade still produces a rather rough surface when resawing. I've got a new Rikon 14325TG. I'm using the stock 5/8 4 TPI blade. Would upgrading the blade give a smoother result? If so, what would you recommend? I can go up to 3/4. I don't have a planer, so smoothing by hand is a lot of work. Okay, I'm going to recommend the one that I have. It's actually an expensive blade, the Lennox 3/2 per inch, 1/2 inch bandsaw blade. So it's from, I got this one from bandsawbladesdirect.com.
You think it's on Amazon?
No.
Oh, okay.
It's a carbide tip blade. If you really need a smooth surface, you can't really get much better than a carbide tip. Carbide tip starts to act a little bit more like a table saw blade, right, with those little teeth on it. Stock blades are fine, and I love people, I always recommend that people use that stock blade, right, because you need to know what an upgrade is for.
Upgrade.
So if you immediately just throw away the stock blade and go to some really high quality blade, you don't really have any, sort of frame of reference for why that blade is better. So I always recommend use the stock blade, get to know it, and then upgrade later and you go, whoa, okay, this is why it's worth spending $150 on this blade or whatever the price is. So Lennox is good, but if you don't want to go that route, there are non-carbide solutions out there. Timberwolf makes some good blades. Let's see, Highland Woodworking has the wood slicer that's a pretty good blade. Less expensive, won't last as long as the carbide, but still pretty darn good blades. And yes, to answer your question, even if you're totally tuned up with the Snodgrass method, that's not going to make a inexpensive blade cut cleaner, right? You need a better blade to do that, unless the lack of cleanliness is part of the setup problem. But in your case, if you did the method, it's not. You're just, it's just the way the blade is cutting.
Harry wants to know, so what's going to happen to our offcuts channel?
Probably sell it to a Chinese company.
No, we're not.
I don't know. I mean, we've got, 30,000, 40,000 subscribers
We've
on there?
been doing this since 2006. He changes his mind a lot.
Daddy needs options. I need some options.
So we will probably keep the channel.
If I get inspired to do more vlog type content,
And
sometimes that goes to a second channel.
Well, and there might be something coming.
What you talking about,
Something
Willis?
new coming.
I don't even know what you're talking about.
We had a conversation about it yesterday. And we installed an app and tried it out.
Yeah, well, that's got nothing to do with
But that could
offcuts.
be on that channel.
Maybe. I don't know. The answer is we don't know.
We don't know.
Who knows?
You think we got this together? No.
This is all, the Wood Whisperer is just a series of bad decisions
Good decisions.
that we accidentally ended up into a place where we could,
Oh my
sort of
God.
make a living off of it. All right.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I got a question here from Sebastian. He says, no matter what I do, I always get a surface film forming in my can of Rubio Monocoat. I'm always using Bloxygen, but it doesn't seem to do much. I took this picture, here we go,
Boink.
5 days after using the can. I've used Bloxygen and closed the can tightly.
Oh
Well,
no.
I gotta say, I don't really have this problem. It doesn't really happen that often to me. And I think part of the reason,
That's a cool picture though.
it is a cool picture.
my God.
Part of the reason may simply be the volume of air in your can. If that's what you typically do, where you use a lot of it and there's only a little bit left,
I would pour it in a different can, right?
pour it in a different container, reduce the volume of air on top of it. Bloxygen is really good, but if you have to, if you have a little bit of finish and you got this much air on top of it, that's really asking a lot. So most of my cans, I only use a little bit, and it takes me a long time to get down really low. And I probably would have the same thing happen if my level went down really low. So that would be my recommendation. If this is something you're frequently doing, think about smaller containers. Think about a product like the Stop Loss bag, if you've seen those. I haven't used them in a long time, but it seems to be a good product where you actually put it in a little bag that has no air in it. Then that would be it. Get it into a smaller container, reduce the volume of air, and that should help.
Harry is asking why the video is at 480p. Maybe you need to set it.
Check
to
your
something
settings.
else?
I don't know. We're broadcasting at HD, so I don't know. Yeah, we should be full HD.
Usually, YouTube will detect your input and adjust it as needed.
Yeah, they'll give you what you deserve. Is what happens. I don't know.
Let's see here. I got another super chat.
Mm-hmm.
This one is from Johnson Crafted Wood Shop. And he
Okay.
says, I'm working on live edge floating shelves, walnut
nice.
and olive. I'm looking for hidden hardware to support the weight. Any suggestions?
Well, kind of hate the fact that you paid $4.99 to ask a question that I can't answer. I don't know.
What about CS hardwood?
Or what?
CSW hardwood? Where you get your screws. They have all kinds of
Okay,
stuff.
hardware.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
There's also CS Woods, which is a local
Yeah.
slab company, which is why I'm getting confused.
So it's CS hardware.
So CS Custom Service Hardware is a company that sells lots of different hardware. They might have a solution, but I don't know. I actually have not looked into floating shelf hardware.
Wall anchors
And look, here's where the
hangers.
chat room comes in handy.
Ooh, yes.
Someone in the chat room, guaranteed, has a good suggestion or at least a video of someone who did something similar. But I don't have a good answer for you. I'm sorry.
I'll link to cshardware.com in the chat.
Mm-hmm.
That question usually is, Mark, where do you get your screws?
Where you get your screw?
Where do you get your screws?
Wherever I can.
So
Dun-dun-dun. Okay.
check them out.
Mike Davies wrote in, kind of related to our question earlier. He says, what's the second plane to buy after the low-angle jack for someone who uses machines to mill their lumber? Kind of waffling between the shoulder plane, rabbiting block plane, and router plane. Am I in the right area at least? Okay, I'm going to recommend, there's a lot of different directions you can go, kind of depending on your goals. But I really do like the joinery planes. So here is a shoulder plane. And here's the other one I would probably recommend. That's your router plane. Okay, so your shoulder plane, this is going to come in handy when you are trimming tenon cheeks. Okay, so let's say you cut some tenon cheeks on the table saw. They're a little bit too fat, so you put them on the workbench, give a couple little passes. I actually do like the large format version. If you have small hands, they do make these in smaller sizes that you might find a little bit more comfortable. This is the medium shoulder plane. This one is a large. And I actually just like the wider blade. Most of my tenons, I would say most of my tenons would fit within this width here. So you can get it in one pass, which is kind of nice. So that's handy for tuning tenons, but perhaps an even better multitasker is the router plane, because you can use this to trim tenons as well. And this is something you can use on dados, rabbits, things like that. So I would say, honestly, I would go with the router plane. I think the router plane as a second purchase is going to be more versatile, will do more things for you than a shoulder plane would. So I'm going to go router plane. I'm voting for the router plane. All right, what else we got? Want me to do another question?
Sure.
Okay, Gary Grimm says, currently have a DeWalt 735 13-inch planer and a Porter Cable 6-inch jointer, and I'm thinking it's time to upgrade. Which would you prioritize if you could only pick one to upgrade? Any recommendations on features to look for? Okay, so you got a DeWalt 735 Porter Cable 6-inch. I'm going to go, now normally if someone doesn't have one of these and they say, do I go jointer or planer first? I say get a planer, because you can a lot of times buy material that's pretty close to what you want. You could skip plane, you could put sleds through the planer to get nice flat surfaces, and you can edge joint with a router table, you can edge joint with a router, you can edge joint with a hand plane, right? So that's why I always say get the planer first. Now you've got both of them. I find the 6-inch jointer, what is it, the Porter Cable you have? Where am I? Lost my place. I think that one is probably, yeah, Porter Cable 6-inch jointer. I don't know if that is a floor standing model or if it's a benchtop model. Especially if it's a benchtop model, that's going to be the upgrade I think that's going to do the most for you. There are people that I know that have a 13-inch planer, even though it's a DeWalt 735 and it's a lunchbox style planer, it still does everything up to 13 inches, right? So I've got a floor standing planer. Is it a little bit more industrial? Yeah. And it's only 15 inches, but in the end, I can still only plane a 15-inch wide board. If you had a 15-inch DeWalt, it would still be able to do the same things that mine can do, right? Now, a 6-inch jointer, benchtop version is very limited in the length of the boards that you can do. You're limited by 6 inches in width. So I would absolutely upgrade that jointer first, and then you can probably do, keep that DeWalt for the rest of your woodworking career. If you want to upgrade later, you certainly can, but I know lots of people who have a big jointer but still use a DeWalt 735 or whatever that other bigger one is as their primary jointer. It's perfectly fine.
I just want to give a shout out to MB. He says, thanks for what you do, starting woodworking because of you. It's been a lifesaver helping cope with PTSD and adjusting back to civilian life after retiring from the Army.
Wow.
So I just wanted to...
Well, thank you for your service.
Yes, thank you
MB.
for your service, and we'd love to see what you're making.
There are a lot of people, we've heard that over the years,
Yeah.
that it's a good stress reliever and it helps people focus on something when their mind tends to want to go elsewhere.
Quilting for me is a good...
Yeah, that's a similar thing.
it's my therapy.
Your parenting post-traumatic stress. I understand that. Also, you may want to look into Rob Kosman's stuff. He does a lot of things with the military.
Yes.
He has events and things at his shop to help support a lot of military. So
yeah, he does some scholarships.
Yeah, he's got some good programs.
Yeah, robkosman.com.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so if you haven't checked out Rob, do.
Corey Pelton says, so I dove into the maddening world of CNC. After some trial and error projects, I've now found my groove, and I love this thing. I know you're not really a CNC guy, but what does it take to be a CNC guy? Do you have to
every
sing,
time you say CNC, I think CNC Music Factory.
I'm trying. Yeah. I'm just a squirrel trying to get a nut to move your butt, Nicole. Okay, so... well, I do own a
Corey
CNC.
is a CNC Music Factory guy.
Right, but I own a
tell.
CNC, so I'd like to, can I be in the club
Yes.
or not? I don't
Yeah.
know. Okay, he says, but have you used it for any guild projects or plans to use it? I realize it would be a really small subset of guild members that would be able to follow along, but I would love to see what you can come up with. Okay, so I would like to provide CNC content. I may not be the guy to provide that. So this is what makes the guild great, is we go out to people who specialize in these things and we have them do it. We document their process. So there are people like Daryl Peart. There's a gentleman, Tim Selesky, I believe, who lives in the area with where Daryl lives. And he is, see, there's people who use CNC to do typical CNC things. They make signs, they make templates, they make plaques, they do those sorts of things. Then there is a subset of CNC users who are using it to facilitate building solid wood furniture, right? Not just plywood stuff. And that is almost a whole different art and sort of science to it. So I may personally never get there. I love woodworking with the hands-on tools. I love a mix of hand tools, power tools. CNC is incredibly powerful, but I'm not 100% sure how much I'm personally going to incorporate that into my work. But there are people who specialize in that. So if I go, to them and say, hey, let's do a series on how to use a CNC for building furniture, You know, and again, not just plywood furniture, solid wood furniture. How do we make these mortise and tenon joints? How do we, you know, make whatever your mind can imagine? How do we make the CNC do that? So yes, something like that is definitely in the cards for the future. It just won't be me as the instructor.
So the question David is asking everyone, he's like, is everybody else at 480? And I was like, you know what? I'm going to check.
Maybe they're just
I just found out they are limiting it. It's not you. It's not me. It's YouTube.
Oh, YouTube.
They are, and I'll share the link that I found. They are throttling all videos
all
to
live
480. I don't even know if it's all live video. I think it's all videos.
Weird.
Because there's just a massive amount of people using it right now. So
look at that. Oddly enough, on this page, Patreon suffers massive lawsuit loss.
Yep, they lost, and that's
a bummer.
That's the bummer of it all.
So yeah, I mean, sometimes YouTube is the boss here. So they make these decisions unilaterally, and there's nothing we can do.
So I'll link to the video for you. You're not going crazy. It really is.
Well, then what are we broadcasting at 1080p
We're
for?
not.
No, I mean, we are. We're sending out a 1080p signal.
Yeah.
They're just squeezing it down.
Yeah, everybody's at 480. You can't fix it.
Well, enjoy those pixels, baby. You know what? In 480p, we look better. It's the concept. Like, there's old TV shows that get remastered, and you see the makeup and things that they did, and you're like, ooh, maybe this shouldn't have been remastered in HD. So our skin looks smoother, right? Fewer blemishes, Nicole. Okay, Tony Tang wrote in. He says, I came to a design of a table leg where the leg structure partially goes through the tabletop. Let's take a look at his design here.
Ooh, lucky.
If I make the desk out of solid wood, will this be okay? The closest distance between the legs at the top is 7 inches. The farthest is 13 inches. I hope this link works. Yeah, it does work. No problem, Tony. I don't like this, Tony. Not because of the design in terms of, its visual appearance, but the structural issues that may come about.
Heaviness right there?
Nope, not the heaviness.
No?
What we're worried about is if you look at where those legs poke through the top, this is also his concern. You got those legs poking through, and while the grain is aligned, normally those legs and the table would kind of move in unison. The rails that connect the legs to each other, those aprons, those are restricting the movement of the legs. They're locked, right? So if that tabletop wants to move back and forth, it's expanding and contracting, but those legs are sticking up. They are not going to move with it. You've got a bar there that's connecting them to each other. At 7 and potentially 13 inches, you can go to like Woodbin and look at the wood movement calculator there and see in your environment how much movement that is going to have to endure. Sometimes we can allow this stuff to happen. Wood actually is flexible, so you can get away with it sometimes, but sometimes not. So if you are trying to stack the cards in your favor for success and not having problems down the line, that is a design that sets off a red flag. So I would not necessarily do that. I wouldn't recommend you do that, but you can do some research. You could look into maybe quarter sawn material for your top that will limit how much the top wants to expand and contract, and hopefully that will work for you. But still, you are breaking a wood movement rule with that design. So you have to possibly rethink it. Or just do it and see what happens. The project I'm doing right now with this desk, kind of interesting. In the first video, and this will be on the free site, in the first video I'm going to explain how there are at least two that I can think of, general woodworking rules that I'm breaking, right? And I'm going to explain why I'm breaking them and why I think it's okay to break them in this particular situation. There are times we can do that. What else we got?
Breaking the rules.
I am something of a rebel, Nicole. There are times where I'll put a lid on a can and I will not spray Bloxygen in there because I'm like, F you people.
I'm a rebel.
I'm a rebel. I'll let my finish skin over all I want. Back off.
Ray Gilmore wants to know, where can you get one of those shirts?
Well, right now the only place you can get them is in my bedroom. I keep them in the top shelf. Nicole made this for me.
I made it. I still have the screen prints.
Yeah, we were considering her making these, but then the COVID hit.
Yeah, the COVID.
And then Nicole started making masks.
And I became a teacher. Yeah. I started making masks.
A homeschooler.
Yeah, homeschooler.
And I'm like, do you really want to have to make hundreds of shirts in the basement right now? Is that what we want to do? I think if anything, my mom's gonna finally be here in a couple of weeks. Eventually. When she sees fit to come back. She has a place to stay now. We are going to find a local printer, and we'll get all of our T-shirts, Wood Whisperer, Wood Talk, Guild, all them, including this one.
Yep.
And we'll have these made, and then you guys can pick one up.
If you know of a good screen printer in the Denver area, shoot me an email, Nicole@thewoodwhisperer.com.
Yeah, we haven't even looked, but we'll take recommendations.
I'll take a recommendation.
Faux show. Okay, Patrick wrote in. Patrick says, Mark, I just bought your books and want to say they are a wealth of information. Well, thank you, Patrick. If you're not aware, I wrote 2 books. Yep. Technically 3. I don't count the third one because it's self-published. But I have 2 books. If you go to twstore.com, you can find them.
Or you can find them in Amazon too.
Or Amazon, or even a local bookstore. If people still go there. I actually like to go into our local bookstore. I haven't been in months. Yeah. And I look to see if Essential Joinery is there. And if it's not on the display shelf, like how they have an upper thing where a couple of them are on display, I grab it, put it on the display shelf. I go, hey, Nicole, do you have a pen? And I autograph it, and I put it back there.
The bookstore workers are like, he's back.
Yeah, this guy's back.
This guy's back.
And they're like, we don't even
deface our property.
We don't even have that SKU in our system. So I'm like, I got my book, put it up there. I didn't say that they had it in stock. I just brought it with me. Now, Barnes & Noble usually does have Essential Joinery. And I was apprehensive about signing a book like that because it's not my property. It's kind of defacing it, but I think someone who buys the book, I was convinced, I believe by Twitter, I was convinced that I should, if I'm in the store and I quickly can do it discreetly, that I should do it, that people would like that. So there it is.
There it is.
Oh, he had a question. Turn that into a commercial for the books. Patrick says, what finish would you use on a kitchen countertop made of maple?
What's R&R's? Rubio?
Granite.
No. The kitchen table.
Okay, that's a kitchen table. He said kitchen countertop.
Oh, kitchen counter. Oh, sorry, I misunderstood.
We have a fine layer of granite on top of the wood, Nicole. Yes. It's probably just OSB beneath that. Let's see. So these days, I've been going a lot more toward hard wax oils, and I think if we had a wooden countertop, I'd want something with a little bit of a film-like quality and something that would certainly be deemed food safe. I would probably look into Osmo products. I'm really a fan of that when I want something that kind of looks like it's a film. You could do something like Rubio, but that is not... Rubio's a little bit more close to the wood looking. With Osmo, you can kind of pad it on or roll it on, and you could leave that on the surface. You can't build that much of a film with Rubio products. So Osmo has a couple different products, including a top oil, which is specifically something that they would recommend for kitchen countertops. So that's actually what I would do. Very easy to repair, still repels water. You get a little bit of that heat resistance with it, but if you have a problem, you can spot, repair, fix it up, apply some more finish, and you're good to go. That's what I would use. There are tons of other products that may suit your particular tastes a little bit better, but that's what I'd recommend.
The finishing matrix. Should we get the finishing matrix out?
Oh boy, the finishing matrix and the what did I call it? The durability paradox, or something like that. Yeah. So that is that.
That is that.
And we're nearing the end of the show. Nicole, do you have any more
I do.
questions?
Matthew Lay says, is there a way to repair a dado cut in plywood that's in the wrong place?
Yes. Put a patch there. Sometimes you could just cut another piece of plywood. If you got a planer or a drum sander, thin it out to, or bandsaw it, get it to the point that it's a little bit thinner and drop a little patch in there. I've done that. I've done it before, especially like if you're doing shelves on the inside of something and you have your little divider there, maybe you put it in the wrong spot. A lot of times if you fill that and it's right below the shelf, it's in a shadow. A lot of times you're not even going to see it. So yeah, definitely try to patch it, and if you can, keep the grain running the same way, So, and in plywood, that's a little bit easier than solid wood. So just try to cut yourself a little cross-grain piece, get it to the right size, pop that sucker in there, and hopefully it's close to where you want to actually have your dado, and this way you can just kind of hide it.
Plan D says, can I get Mark to sign my PDF copy of Finishing It Ain't Over Till It's Over?
Yeah, hold on. All right, you probably can't
people
read it.
Listening, we're doing finger.
Oh, that's right. Forgot that there is an audio component to this.
Let's see here. I got another question from...
Oh, I got one here.
Oh, okay.
From Senmax.
Senmax?
Okay. So Genmax says, hi, Mark. During my recent move, my friend broke my drill press.
Whoops.
Oh, what a turd. With friends like that, who needs enemies, right?
Yeah,
Nicole?
right?
I'm bummed out and can't muster up the courage to start fixing it or do anything with wood since then. Any advice to reboot my passion? All right, I'm going to give you some tough love here.
Why is your friend not replacing it?
Well, it's like when my mom dropped our pan, or our little pot, like our favorite little pot.
Yeah.
It now has a massive dent.
It's like brunk.
And I don't see a replacement pot
Yeah,
anywhere.
I
We just live with it. You know how well a lid fits on a dented pot?
It doesn't.
It doesn't, Nicole. It doesn't. Mom, it doesn't fit. So just dropping hints, Christmas is coming. So here's the tough love talk. Why the hell does a broken drill press stop you from wanting to do woodworking? I can't even fathom how your head got there.
How often do you use your drill press?
I used it yesterday.
Yeah.
And that was the first time in maybe 2 weeks.
Yeah.
The drill press, like if I could lose a tool today and not be affected by it, the drill press would probably be the tool that is the least likely to be used on any particular day. It's a good tool. I like having it. But if I broke it or if it just miraculously wasn't there, that would in no way impair my ability to make things, right? So if your passion is tied to making things, forget about the drill press.
What do you need the drill press for? Like,
Drilling holes, Nicole.
just drilling holes.
Just drilling holes.
Drilling holes.
Screw it. It's the end of the year.
End of the year.
Yeah, so look, I'm going to smack you around a little bit and say, what's the deal? What's the problem? Is there something else going on that has you upset about this? That the drill press has you, losing your passion for woodworking? That's crazy talk, man. So identify your passion. If your passion is making things...
This is your reboot. Mark is giving you
here's your reboot, is a kick in the butt. I'm going to say this, though. Maybe he makes, like, cribbage boards.
Yeah.
And that's all he makes.
Oh, that's true.
So now he can't do the holes or something. Okay, maybe that's the case. Let's allow for that, and I'll back off a little bit. But if that's not the case, water under the bridge, man. Don't worry about it. Try to fix it when you have time. But how about building something, right? Just build something that doesn't require the drill press, and that's like 75% of the stuff out there, maybe more. That's actually an accurate number. I did research just now.
Did you just research it in your head?
Yeah.
Like a computer?
And move on, man. There's just no reason to not have passion about woodworking because of a drill press.
Woodwork Learner has some wise information. He says, a wise man told me once, never lend what you can't afford to give.
I like that.
I do too.
Yeah,
that's kind of how I do it. Like, I'm like, all right, I might not see this again.
This must be why I don't lend anything. Can I borrow this? Nope.
Nope.
But you have 5 of them. Nope.
Todd said, TWW Counseling Corner.
I'd be a terrible counselor.
Probably.
I would be like the SNL Scared Straight version of a counselor.
You're like Chris Farley, gonna live down by the river.
It's just a drill press, boy.
The van down by the river.
Okay.
See, you didn't know what you're gonna. If you're new to this, you're like, what?
Look,
Hey,
it's all about us having a good time. Whether anyone else enjoys it is almost irrelevant.
you're just along for the ride.
We're having fun. That's all that counts. Honestly, I thought about it, and I'm like, what is our excuse for bringing it to the main channel? And I'm like, well, it's good enough now.
Yeah.
Like, for a long
It
time.
took 5 years to get there.
It took a long time, and I feel like, we made it. We're like, this is a show that people enjoy. If you don't like it, you don't have to watch it. It'll just, it'll happen every Friday, and you could ignore it.
Yeah.
But I think it's actually a good show. If I can toot my own horn for a minute.
Toot.
It's a lot of fun. I like counseling people. Anyone else have any emotional issues, marital issues, anything I can help with?
No. That's for the after show, which we didn't. We do have an after show, which is more even more casual than this one.
If you are a supporter on soon-to-be defunct Patreon, you actually have access to an after show. It's about like a half hour, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, where we just talk mostly about off-topic things.
Yeah.
We'll still answer woodworking questions, but most of it is non-woodworking questions. So you get access to that automatically just by being a supporter on Patreon.
Well, it's automatically as in you got to click the link. I'll put the link in the chat
Yeah.
for the Patreon post that has the YouTube video.
I like this, the Gordon Ramsay of woodworking. I want like 2 slices of bread and be like, repeat after me. I am an idiot sandwich. Some of that. Oh boy.
Oh boy.
What a
oh
day.
boy.
Oh, sorry, my
boy.
mic's going into my shirt.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Well, we
Anything
should
else before we go?
I mean, let me just make double check.
Double trouble. You guys want
There might be a Patreon
you
or a
want
super
my
chat.
parenting opinions?
No.
I got some
Come
some
to the
opinions.
after show for that. We can a little bit more intimate. We got a question here from. Did I ever ask? No, I didn't. Rob Kenny did a super chat. Building a cabinet out of BB ply.
Baltic birch.
Oh, okay. That is larger than the 5x5 size of the raw Baltic birch sheet.
Uh-huh.
Is there a way to join the ply edges to the end to get more length?
Yeah, I mean, you can use biscuits, you can use dominoes, you could use dowels. I'm going to recommend that you don't do this, though, Rob.
You could do this, but don't do this.
I see that you're from Countertop, and in Countertop, you probably, I don't know, you might have access to different things. Here in the States, at least, we can get things that are 4x8. Not every vendor actually has them, but you can get Baltic birch ply. It might be, I always get them confused. The guys at Austin used to school me on this. I don't remember the names. It could be like a Russian birch, excuse me, but you can get it in a 4x8 sheet. So if you want the multi-layered, 11 layers
Bradley says
inside
scarf
Baltic
joint?
birch?
Scarf joint?
But don't even bother. Like, I guess if you have the material and you're stuck with it, then you got to do what you got to do. But I wouldn't even bother. Get a 4x8 sheet of Baltic birch, Russian birch, whatever it's called, and go from there. Because honestly, there's really, I mean, yes, you can join plywood together, but it's not like solid wood. You've got a very thin veneer on the top. So when you join those, if there's any discrepancy between them, you're either going to have a ridge there, or you're going to sand it and you're going to burn through, right? And I would hate to see that happen. So get the right material to begin with. See if you can find a vendor that has 4x8 sheets of the material you want, and you'll be much, much happier.
Much, much, much happier.
Okay.
Patreon, I don't know what's going on.
Someone told us there's a lawsuit thing.
As of now, no, Patreon's still there. We're still doing Patreon.
We're operating as if we don't know that information.
But we are also setting up YouTube memberships of hopefully within the week.
Yeah, it'd be great if we have it for the next show.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else?
We're going to head on over to the after show.
Everybody, I shouldn't have said anything. People who came to the show later didn't hear the beginning.
What's
so
the
they're
beginning?
like, when we talked about the Patreon thing.
Oh,
so we're like, Patreon's defunct? What?
No.
That was a throwback to a joke. Okay, anything else?
I think that's it. I think we can wrap up the show.
Okay.
And I'll let, with the questions that come in on Patreon, I pick a winner. I'll let them know there.
Okay. Well, cool. Thank you for watching,
Yes.
everybody. And remember, we do this every Friday, 9:30 our time, 11:30 Eastern, 8:30 Pacific. And, we love talking to you guys.
Yes.
So come check us out. And we'll see the rest of you, patrons, in the after show.
Hope you have a good weekend.
Have a good weekend.
Bye.
Toodles.